Namaste Galactic family, and welcome back to the channel Indigo Angel. Come on into this dimension and come on into this cosmic grid and cosmic geopolitical container tonight. We're going to have a live roundtable discussion, a Tuesday night special. As this got moved over from Saturday, we were supposed to do this Saturday night, but the timelines are shifting very quickly, and intel has been coming in fast like a hotcake. Essentially, just one thing after the next, after the next, after the next. So, a lot of information has just been really needing to marinate, and we've been needing to absorb it all and really kind of just take some time to filter through everything that's occurring so that way we can make our assessment on the topics and really get into a good discussion with you guys. So we are so excited. We have an amazing show for you as always. So check on into this live, you guys. We are so excited to be here with you. We have an amazing panel here to discuss all of this. And you may have seen the title of this video. We are going to be discussing the Mar-a-Gaza, or you could say the Gaza Lago situation that is happening as Trump just decided to announce that the United States will be taking over the Gaza Strip. We don't know if this is going to come into full fruition or not, but a lot of discussions are definitely on the table. And we're going to be talking about what do we think this means on a deeper level, according to the energies, according to all of the things that have already occurred, according to the grids, according to the zeitgeist of Trump, the spirit of time, and what's kind of occurring with this revelation of Trump's energy as it expands across the globe and seems to be impacting so many around the world and so many leaders. Um, and so it's a really interesting time. It's a really interesting situation. And we're kind of excited. It's a lot of accelerative energy, and it seems like a lot of solutions are being put on the table, to all these problems. And so we do like solutions to problems. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be getting into the hostage situation and the countdown to Saturday at noon. Essentially, hopefully, God willing, these precious souls will be being returned back to their loved ones. We would love to see the hostages be returned. And so, yeah, so much is happening. And we are so excited that you guys are here with us. Be sure to check on in the chat. Um, you do have to be subscribed to the channel for at least 60 seconds to get into the chat, but we love it when you guys check in with us and say hello. Let us know that you are here. Be sure to put a big like on this video tonight. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, be sure to subscribe and hit that notifications bell. And yes, again, let us know what you're thinking. Let us know what you're feeling. We already have a couple already checking in. It looks like Evie's here. And Evie has signed up for the memberships that I'm now offering on the channel. So be sure to check out the memberships because it's kind of exciting. I have special little icons that you get if you sign up for the memberships, and you'll also get to join our grid work missions monthly live that normally are only offered to my patrons, but we are now going to offer the memberships on YouTube to be able to attend those. So just so you guys know the options there for the memberships, and I'd love it if you joined. It looks like we have Tom Stew here. Hey, Tom, how's it going? Jim Montgomery is here. Yes, Jim, thank you so much for being here. He's always here supporting. We love him so much. It looks like Rashil O is here. And Laura Lee, uh, Noco's in the house. Hey. And Tracy Brown checking in from Nova Scotia, Canada. So awesome, guys. We're so excited. And yeah. We're going to introduce my amazing panel tonight. We're going to go around in a circle and just introduce ourselves and let you guys know where we're coming from tonight. So, you guys know me. I'm Indigo Angel, but I like to go by Indy. I'm down in Pensacola, very close to Stargate 2. I'm enjoying the clear quartz crystal sandy beaches down here in the Gulf of America. And I'm going to be transmitting my messages to you guys from this location tonight. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, thanks, Indy, and everybody for having me on again. And welcome to Tyler for joining us tonight. And my name's Ani Sophine, and I have Quantum Messages with Ani Sophine podcast. I am the host of that. I live in Ashland, Oregon. So about an hour north from Mount Shasta. So that's a huge portal site and also potentially a Stargate as well. And I've been feeling a lot of the Schumann resonance for the past 48 hours. And I bet some of you that are listening to this have been as well. So I'd like to, yeah, welcome everybody in. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Raquel. Thank you, Indy, for inviting me to the show. I'm so glad to be here representing my channel, All That Is. I'm coming to you from just outside of Vancouver in Canada. Yeah, I just have to say this is a very important time, I think, for all of us as individuals and collectives and a collective to be, if you have, I guess that saying is singing from the same music sheet, right? So the more we come together, the quicker we can flip the balance, if you will, towards the light. So I feel this is such a great time for us to be awakening and coming together as one voice. So I'm so appreciative of these roundtables because they tend to heighten the light, I guess. And we were talking about the Schumann resonance. So yes, we will get back to that. I'm so glad. Thank you.
Aloha, everyone. It's me, Noko, tuning in from beautiful Georgia. And, I am Indy's, what do you want to say? Assistant extraordinaire. And I just love to be here and be an extension of her in so many ways and hold down the ship, the fort. I love to shout out the people in the chat and highlight their comments. And yeah, I have my own website, nokostribe.com. I make music. I do lots of things, so definitely come and check me out too. But I'm here tonight to just, bring some light in and see where this goes. We always have some really fun topics, and I just think it's really a great time to spend with like-minded individuals and people that get my brain moving and my heart feeling so expanded. So thank you as usual for having me, and yeah, let's do this.
Hi, everyone. It's Missy Hill here, broadcasting to you from the state where the mastermind is located behind all this wild energy because I'm in North Palm Beach, Florida. As a crow flies, I'm probably about 10 or 15 minutes from Mar-a-Lago. And I actually had the privilege last week before I went on the cruise. As you see this backdrop, this is from when I was on the Margaritaville cruise. There was a theme of the globe and the world and uniting the world with all the flags, as you can see. Well, when I was in West Palm Beach last week, I saw Air Force One, and then this past weekend, just for fun, I decided I wanted to drive into Palm Beach and drive by Mar-a-Lago, and we might have some pictures to share on that. Currently, I'm working on this grid work that's going to be very important grid work mission coming up in April 11th, 12th, and 13th in Charleston. It's a boots on the ground mission to clear warring timelines, and there's even so much more going on with that as new earth timelines are creating in as the Bermuda Triangle is being repatterned, going back to its original state as a Lemurian birthing center. So more on that in the future, and we can't wait to hear from Tyler. Take it away.
That was all amazing. Thank you so much for having me back here. Um, I kind of feel like the odd man out, being the only masculine in the room, but I appreciate it, and we'll have some fun tonight. For those who don't know, I host Journey to Truth podcast, and it started off as a podcast. Now we film documentaries, we do webinars, we host our own conferences, which we have one coming up in May, which I would love to invite everyone to, May 12th through the 15th. Tickets are still available. You can find that information at journeytotruth.online. And that's also where you can find everything that we do as Journey to Truth. It's all umbrellaed under one website now. You can follow us on all the social medias and all the platforms. It's a passion project of ours. This is not something that I ever thought I would be doing, but here I am, and there's no other way to be living life right now because this is why we're here. And it's pretty clear that we're not living in the consensus reality that we grew up in. Everyone's belief is creating pocket realities now, and their beliefs are changing, and it's kind of it's a very interesting situation that I don't think maybe we've never been through before. And, history repeats itself, but I don't think this has happened before. This is something different, and that's why we're here talking about it. So thanks for having me back.
Well, we're so excited that you're here, Tyler. You're kind of like the special guest tonight. And, so it really helps us out in this container of all of us women here. You kind of balance out the energy. So we're really excited to be able to kind of, shoot all of these ideas and all of these thoughts and all of this intel, off of, your intel, because you're definitely coming from a different lens of information that I think can help us broaden it and take the conversation a lot deeper. So we're really appreciative that you're here. And we got a lot of people checking in the chat, still coming in. We have Baja Girl 302 here as well. She's saying hello, much love to you all from Arizona. Awesome. Okay, we love Arizona. Christopher Reed is here. Journey Tribe in the house. And Shannon is here. She says, Missy makes me smile. And Jim Montgomery was sending Missy some love as well. It says, love Missy's voice has a powerful vibration. She is just a hoot and yeah, strong, powerful woman. And that's why Missy is here, is because, it's just like we're weaving a web together. We're weaving this fabric all together as we kind of come in, and it's like a symphony, right? The symphony. You guys are here for it, making music. And Tom Stew says, Tyler, holding lion energy for you, brother. Shout out from Minnesota. That's so awesome. Yeah, we got to keep it grounded a little bit, right? Balance these energies out. But speaking about balancing the energies out, Ani, tell us about what's going on with the Schumann resonance right now, because it's doing some crazy stuff right now.
Yeah, so we were just talking about this, but it's been going off the hook for the past, I'd say, 36 hours ish. I have an app, and so I'm able to get updates every time it increases. And so I would say, like, it's been increasing a lot, like one time over 60%, which is huge. And so when that happens in correlation, what's going on also with the full moon and what's going on with the solar flares, it creates a lot of instability in biological beings, basically. So, personally, for myself, I've been feeling out of whack today. And I know other people have as well. So I had to go ground myself at the hot springs just to like really like kind of sink in. But I do feel personally the energy starting to ramp up. I can feel it in my heart center and also my sacral chakra as well. I can barely say that. So there's a little bit of an imbalance. So I'm sure other people are experiencing it as well. We are coming into the full moon tomorrow. And so this full moon will be in a Gandanta, which is a knot. And so with this full moon and with Uranus going into, I can't remember what it was. I think Capricorn or Aries. I don't know. I could be wrong about that. It could create a lot of instability. So just really ground yourself right now.
Yeah. And the auroras are supposed to be out. If you go outside, people might see the aurora borealis if they live in the northern states. So check that out.
Yeah, just the whole energy, like the galactic vibrations coming in, as well as, the Earth going through her thing, and then the solar flares, and potentially all of also just like the technology on the planet. Like we don't know what's going on, on the planet right now, what they could be using. And so that could also be increasing the energy as well. So yeah, my main thing and for myself personally is to just kind of ground as much as I can. And I'm sure for everybody else as well.
Yeah, I would just
go ahead.
Go ahead, Tyler.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I was just going to say it's really interesting with the Schumann resonance and the solar flares and how we're all being bombarded right now. And I think there's a deeper picture here. There's a lot more going on. So if I don't know if you've heard of like the sphere beings or these beings that have placed these spheres in our galaxy essentially to absorb the solar flares as almost like a filter to help dissipate it before it gets to Earth. And you would think, well, that's counterintuitive because maybe those solar flares would help us, help the ascension, assist the ascension. But what I think is happening too is something we have to think of the other side of that coin is, we're being bombarded even more right now with the chemtrails and the poisons and the heavy metals and all that stuff. And you've heard the whole concept, if you put foil in the microwave, it sparks and blows up. Well, if we're loaded with all the heavy metals and the aluminum and the barium, and then we have the full-on solar flare hitting Earth, well, I mean, we could be potentially looking at spontaneous combustion within us, our humans. So I think maybe part of the reason for them like dissipating and filtering those flares is because we are we're not healthy, right? We might think that we are, but constantly we have these heavy metals, being absorbed through our pores. So I think right now, like maybe the what like we're all kind of feeling out of balance because these flares are coming in, but that might be because we need a detox. Like I've been so strongly guided to get the heavy metals out of my body lately. And what's another interesting thing that came up was, methylene blue, like RFK
Mhm.
was putting the methylene blue in. Well, somebody posted on Facebook the other day, and it kind of like it rang true to me. I got goosebumps when I read it, and I call them truth bumps. Um, so methylene blue, well, what happens? What do we know about blue roofs and direct energy weapons and fires? The blue roofs don't burn, right?
Mhm.
Well, what if that blue dye, the methylene blue in our body, actually works the same way to the frequencies that we're being bombarded with every day? So it might
Mhm.
actually have the same effect. And there's something about the actual color blue being in our body right now while we're being bombarded with everything. Because I do think that the deep state is going down, kicking and screaming right now. They're just going to throw everything they got at us. The skies right now, it actually kind of makes me sick how many chemtrails I've been seeing. And they're trying to block out the sun with Bill Gates' whole thing, and that's just to basically, um, what's the word I'm trying to look for? Um,
Suppress.
suppress, yeah, but that's not it. It doesn't matter. It's trying to basically make the planet habitable for, like, you could say
Oh.
reptilians or for
Mhm.
them, right? Because they actually can't exist in the sunlight. That's why they're underground. And they're trying to replace the sun with a pill. That's why all the doctors are, pushing vitamin D.
Mhm.
So I think there's a lot deeper, there's deeper layers to what's happening right now with the Schumann resonance and why the solar flares and why everybody's feeling the way they're feeling. And if you go ahead,
Yeah.
I don't want
Yeah, I
So
was
wait,
gonna just go ahead.
oh,
I was gonna say one thing really quick to what he was saying about those bubbles that are in space. So in between Earth and the sun, there's these gigantic plasmoid like clouds or whatever, kind of what Tyler was talking about, and it does absorb solar radiation. And they're technically supposedly alive or like sentient. They're gigantic, massive clouds, and so it just reminded me, Tyler, what you were saying, like that really fits in the actual like science behind it. Go ahead,
to.
Indy.
yeah, so when you were saying that they're shielding or blocking out the sun, I mean, that's technically what the chemtrails are, right? Because it's like when they go up there and they're spraying and, chemtrailing, basically, they actually don't have to chemtrail too many times because it looks like they only have to go over a few times. And then that aluminum, you know, aerosol or whatever it's called, it then spreads out and creates like a blanket over the top of us. And so that's is what's technically is creating the shield between us and the sun is the chemtrails.
So that's the Dark's shield. Yeah. So we have the spheres that are working on our behalf, and then we have the chemtrails that are working against us. So, they're filtering the solar flares so we can actually handle the frequencies and ascend in a healthy manner and not just be bombarded to where it cripples all of us. But yeah, the chemtrails, I think, obviously, it's doing much more than just blocking the sun. I mean, it's poisoning everything, the water, the food, the soil, us. I mean, it kind of covers it checks all the boxes for them. The evil genius is not just a made up term. These guys know what they're doing. Um, but I'm gonna go back to the actual Schumann resonance really quick because I just recently learned where that actual name came from. We know Otto Schumann, the German scientist who discovered it, but there's a book out there called The Vril Diamond Diaries, and it was written by Sean David Morton, who is now deceased, unfortunately, but he wrote a fabulous book series called The Sands of Time, which is the origins of time travel within the shadow government. And in book six is verbatim diaries of what happened during the Vril Society era. Um, pre-World War I all the way through post-World War II. And it contains a missing chunk of history that is intentionally left out of our textbooks, but it rewrites everything and it fills in all the blanks and it's amazing. But so when Maria Orsic and the Vril Society were actually channeling the blueprints and the schematics for these UFOs, when they finally put one together, and all the big names in Germany were there: Karl Haushofer, Hans Kammler, Hitler, including Otto Schumann. So they built this thing, and after like the fifth attempt, they finally got it to turn on. And they were blown away because they built it based on the blueprints, but they still didn't understand where it was drawing its power from. It was a mystery to them. And when they turned on the first flying saucer, it actually stayed powered up for 2 years and they couldn't even turn it off. But and they did not know how or where it was drawing its power from. So Otto Schumann, it inspired him to start measuring the resonance of the planet. And that's why he even discovered the Schumann resonance, because they were trying to figure out where this craft, this flying saucer, was drawing its power from. So it's just a little interesting side note for those who don't know about like why that was actually, or how it got its name.
What's the book again, Tyler?
It's book six of a nine-book series actually, but books eight and nine aren't out yet. But it's called The Sands of Time, book six, The Vril Damen Diaries. And there's a whole backstory on how the author got the information, and he wrote the books, and basically they gave him throat cancer, and now he's passed away because the information in the books literally rewrites history.
Thank you.
Hmm. You know, what's interesting about the methylene blue, I think there was a video they had on X showing um R RFK Jr. Yeah, he was like on an airplane and he was putting it in his drink or something like that. And it just came up the other day too, because I was talking to a friend down here in Florida and he was telling me that you can make it homemade as well.
Hmm.
I didn't know that, but I guess you can make it yourself and you can make your own organic methylene blue. So I guess some people are doing that. And so it'd be interesting to get the recipe, maybe give it a try. Because, I mean, I think if you were to try to make Ormus or something like that yourself, I think it's better to make that yourself if you can as well, because you just could do a better job at it
Mhm.
overall. And then,
Methylene blue mixed with nicotine is actually really beneficial.
oh,
Probably,
The
really?
combination of the two. Yeah, there's like a pill you can take and you just put it in your mouth and suck on it, and then your tongue turns completely blue. And it's like dyed all day blue. I can't remember the name of it. I'll try and find it for you guys if you want it.
It'd be so funny. We all start taking it and we all start showing up with blue tongues
Blue
and
tongues, yeah.
blue skin. We're like, we're here.
I mean,
Avatar.
it, it dyes your mouth for a couple hours. I mean, you gotta
Yeah.
can't have any plans.
Well, and something Tyler said just keeps repeating over and over right now in my head. Blueprint, blueprint, blueprint. So take that for what it is, but I think there's something to this blue, is what I'm saying.
Oh, you mean blue, like blueprint, actually. That's
Mhm.
interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah, like the
Yeah, and
original divine blueprint. Hmm.
yep, that's where I was headed there. Sometimes I like to just drop a little code in and see who gets it, you know what I'm saying? I speak in
Blue.
code sometimes.
I
Maybe some
found
people,
it.
yeah, maybe some
I
people
found
think
what
it's
it was,
really
by the way,
simple,
guys.
but
If you want to try it, it's
okay.
called blue cannatine, CANNATINE, and it's methylene blue, 5 milligrams, and then it has nicotine in it.
Mm.
You know, in the comments we have too, Shekinah Grace said, I had the same thoughts about the blue flame embodiment that is our protection, alike to the methylene blue. Yeah, working with the blue light. And then, yeah, they're agreeing about the nicotine. Ashra Healing says nicotine destroys nanotech. I've heard that before as well. Interesting. So, but they've told us that nicotine is bad for us. We're not supposed to be using it. But back in the day, the natives used it. I mean, that's what they would put in the peace pipe, basically, and it was more of a ceremonial thing. So I think if you're probably using it sparingly, or when you feel like you need to protect or shield, it's probably, and if you're using organic, because where would you get the purest form of it from? Tobacco?
Yeah, tobacco. That's what they use. They would even put it in their medicine bags along with a number like sage and I think lemongrass. I forgot what it was, but they have like four certain things for the four directions that they put in their medicine bags. But tobacco was one of them.
Yeah, and I keep hearing Blue Lotus. That's just coming through
Hmm.
strong as well. But I wanted to share when Ani was talking about the resonance and just how she's been feeling. I'm wondering if anybody else has been like doing some serious astral work because I've been traveling. There's been some really interesting things. Like some of my dreams, I've even had like FBI show up in. Some
Oh,
things that have been
that's
really,
weird.
yeah, really interesting, deep. And then I'm remembering my recall is so clear and yeah, doing some serious work. So it just feels like it's all connected in some ways with the energetics right now.
I love Blue Lotus oil. I love to use that. And I just want to say, since I've been in Palm Beach County, I haven't seen any chemtrails. Isn't that interesting?
Hmm. Yeah.
Well, they might be slowing down. I've seen a lot of people that are out, just I don't know if they're just everyday citizens or things like this, but I've seen a lot of videos on X of people actually going out and, since they can't get a hold of like their higher ups or like the people actually doing it, like they're going out and they're protesting, at their airport sites and where the um pilots are getting on their planes and they're like trying to stop them from actually going up there and doing it. And I think more and more people are starting to get, educated and actively involved. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that's something over the next 4 years we see slow down.
Well,
And
I think it will because we just learned from the USAID that they've been funding or there's a contract in place to fund cloud seeding until 2027. So that's literally being funded by our taxpayer dollars to chemtrail or to poison ourselves. So, I mean, that's known now. That's a fact. So we can, now that we're aware, right? Awareness is the key. That's the first step. Now that we're aware, we can start to reverse that. And I think that's inevitably going to happen. There's an order of operations here, and there's a lot happening at once. We've been asking for so long for disclosure and to rip the band-aid off, but I think where people are now realizing is that we can't even keep up with the little bit that's trickling out day by day now. So can you imagine if they really did? Like we would not be able to compute the reality of the situation on this planet if the blinders were just taken off in an instant. It might actually cause major severe trauma and PTSD that would actually be more detrimental than it would be helpful for the planet. So I'm kind of leaning more towards like, okay, let's just take our time with this. It's all going to happen as, it's all divinely orchestrated.
yeah. Well, I think that leads us then to maybe go into our topics of discussion a little bit. I mean, clearly the USAID clearinghouse basically that's happening with Elon Musk and Doge. I mean, this is a pretty big deal. They're finding all of this, crooked spending and all kinds of money sent to Gaza for condoms and I don't even know whatever else the money was being spent on. I used to have the list, but I mean, there's a whole bunch of things. I think a bunch of transgender things and transgender plays and transgender books. And I mean, clearly these are things we don't want the money going to. But I think one thing for me is it's like, wow, they found so much corruption in just USAID. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens when they start working on the Department of Education and the Department of Justice and, the Treasury and all these things. I mean, I think that could start getting a little crazy once they start, opening up that can of worms, basically. But they seem really dedicated to pushing forward with it. And I mean, this is what I guess the American people are asking for is they want, this full-on disclosure of the spending, which I think is fair and just and right. I mean, it's only so long that corruption can go on before it has to come to the light. So what do you guys think about this and what are you seeing with all of this?
Well, I think having a platform like X is really great because I think we were all sort of suppressed, right, for at least a good 4 years or for a few years before that too. But I think the suppression was getting to be really intense towards the end, just before Trump came on board. And before, we were given the freedom to actually express ourselves. So I think that's the first step in the right direction, where we are able to voice our opinions. And I think this is the only way that people are actually seeing the truth and hearing it from individuals that have proof, and not from mainstream media, right? You could see them plummeting right before our eyes, right? So I think that's definitely made a difference in us bringing forth the truth as a first big, large step in the right direction.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you can see the shift in the collective too, because even on Joe Rogan's podcast, which, he's doing, we all have our opinions, right? But, he's playing his role in all this. But even he said that he goes, if Elon didn't buy Twitter and Trump didn't dodge a bullet, we would be in World War III right now. He doesn't even realize where he's talking about literally averting an entire timeline. Like I don't think they're understanding that they're talking about timelines when they're talking about this stuff. But people are understanding that these things are there's having a ripple effect, right? So I absolutely agree with you about the X and having the free speech. I think that's a huge first step. I don't even remember what Indy's original question was, just our opinions about what's going on right now. I mean, I think we're seeing the machine consume itself. It's inevitable. What they say, just stay out of the way while the enemy destroys themselves. I think that's kind of what we've been doing for the last 4 years. And then now it's time, dark mega, put the hat on, like Melania was wearing and get to work. So, I think they're cleaning house now, and it might not be apparent depending on who you are, but I think if for those of us who have been following this for quite some time, we can see it, and it's amazing.
Do you guys want me to read to you what some of the spending was on? I pulled up the list. I'll just read a couple things here. 7.9 million to teach Sri Lankan journalists how to avoid binary gendered language. 20 million for a new Sesame Street show in Iraq. 4.5 million to combat disinformation in Kazakhstan. Oh, and you guys heard the other one. They were saying that they funded all of the celebrities to go over to Ukraine. That was one of them. Let's see, 2 million for sex changes and LGBT activism in Guatemala. Let's see. Yeah, the list just goes on. It's a pretty long list. 6 million for tourism in Egypt. 2.5 million to promote inclusion in Vietnam. It looks like most of the investments was going towards like the LGBTQ, the DEI. I mean, that's pretty crazy to me. I mean, clearly that's a deep state agenda, and that's really sad that they're trying to just pay for this all over the world. I mean, that goes to show you that the cancer for this whole thing probably started here in the US, and like we're the main sponsor of this around the world.
Well, what's
Hey,
interesting about that is a friend of mine, Leah Ray. She's actually we've had her on the show a couple times. She's an Akashic record reader. She's going to be speaking at our conference, but she on temporarily she's working at like as a secretary, basically selling like Brazilian waxes and stuff like that. But where she lives, it's all the transgender people who have just had a sex change. They're coming in, and they're literally they're giving her a new. Um, Human anatomy model with different genders, like five different genders, and they have like a new models to work with, and they're being instructed on all the new body parts, and they have to watch all these videos on how the surgeries are actually done. And she said it's horrible, and she like reads the energy and she said these people are all carrying essentially demons. It's not even them, like their souls in the back seat, and it has a lot to do with the jab and some other things, and there's a whole order of operations there too. It's like the perfect recipe. But what she noticed is that oh my gosh, where was I going with that? Something about the
What she noticed.
yeah. What did you say about it again? You think that it was more of the oh yeah, so that's what it
DEI.
was. That's where I was going. Sorry. So these people all come in expecting a free wax, and some of these packages are like upwards of 2, 3 grand sometimes. And they come in because the surgery was free, the sex change was free, that was funded by our government. They come in and they're like, wait, I have to pay for this? And they're beside themselves when they have to look, then when they realize they have to pay for the wax and the spa package. And then most of them, she said, once they realize they have to pay, they change their mind and don't want it. What do you think they would, if they had to pay for the sex change, that would make them pause and think about it and probably decide against it. But since it's free, they're like, okay, well, I might as well do it. And they've done it without thinking about it. So they're just expecting the next step to be free as well. But when they actually have to think about it and pay for it, they change their mind. So that's also part of, the devil right there playing his tricks on you because then they dangle that stuff. And for the people who are infested with parasites and mind control and whatever is going on with them, they're gonna take that bait. And that's kind of like you said, there's a there's a mastermind behind all this.
Those thoughts are implanted on social media.
Hmm.
A
I
Yeah,
lot
have
of
a
it. A
question for you
lot.
guys.
Yeah.
yeah.
This USAID debacle, has it reverted back to Soros in any way? I haven't heard anything, but it stinks of this person.
He
I
was mentioned.
He
Elon Musk
was?
did mention him. Yeah, he
Oh,
was
okay.
mentioned, but I'd have to go like back to and reference his X account to see where he mentioned it, but he did mention it like 3 days ago.
No,
But
but
he
is
posts.
the buck stopping at his door for any of these fundings because
I'm
he's
sure
known to
he's
fund
part of
these
it.
projects. Okay.
He's probably part of something, but there's it goes so deep,
Yeah.
hence deep state, that there's so many. I'm sure there's more people involved, a lot more people involved.
Thank you.
There's people like who Ian Carroll is, the cancel my clothing guy, the big name. He's like blowing up all over the place now. Anyway, he's one that's calling out Soros, but Elon has been like kind of retweeting him. And
Right.
so
Yeah.
it's like it's happening. And yeah, it's not been officially verified, but it
Yeah.
has been by all the people doing the digging, but it hasn't been officially recognized that Soros has been funding, in particular, like the riots. That was one thing directly there is a paper trail back to the Soros Foundation and the peaceful protest, right? And Black Lives Matter and all the stuff, anything that perpetuates the divide and conquer narrative or agenda, either way. But yeah, I think there's evidence there. It just has to come to the forefront.
Yeah, and I was just going to share that since all this has been happening, I'm seeing so many more people speaking out. I'm seeing so many more people that never even spoke about this kind of thing on their social media channels, like st bringing this up, telling this to their viewers, and sharing this information and getting angry, like rightfully so. This is our money.
Hmm.
This is how the people have the power, right? We are the ones powering all of this, and somehow we're not having any ability to decide where that goes. And it's literally going to things that we would never allow. And so, where does the buck stop? And who really does hold that power? And how do we create change? And so I'm just glad that it's all coming to the forefront. And I'm even seeing more in the health freedom movement of, more people getting involved, more people speaking up about what's happened to them. And I saw some comments in here in the chat about all the detransitioners that are coming forward and speaking up about the abuse, about, how they've been mishandled, how they've been manipulated. And I'm so glad. Like I'm getting full body chills right now. I'm just so happy. And I've been waiting, some of us have been waiting many decades for this, right? We'll age ourselves here. We've been waiting a long time. So to see this shift in the collective, in the space of having courage, of using our voices and the tools that we have, our resources, I'm fired up and I'm excited to see everybody else fired up. And so whether or not you agree with everything these people are doing in the government and the people that are bringing this stuff forward, I don't think any of that matters at this point. I think, like Tyler said, there is a divine plan and we're just here for the show. So let's
Yeah.
go get your popcorn, y'all.
Yeah. But I think we spoke to this the other day too, Noko, when we had our Rainbow Live update that we did. We talked about the spiritual inversions that are behind, you know, um, that movement in itself, and really how a lot of these young children are just kind of, and really a lot of people who are spiritually sick, really, because that's kind of what this is a manifestation of people just not being in touch with, their true self and who they are and their energy centers and their chakras and their biospiritual mechanics and how these things operate and function to its truest, fullest capacity. And everything's so inverted that really, they're not gender confused. They're just dealing with inverted chakra systems where their root chakra is essentially up where their crown chakra is. And so it's always the constant mental fixation over their sexuality. Like the sexuality is their spiritual identity. And so it's always being projected out. And
Right.
so really we just need to get these confused children, for one, which I think Trump did coming in, which is laying down the law, like the foundation, like, no, this is how it is. Like, boys are boys and girls are girls, and
Legally.
that's how it's going to be. Step one. Step two is now let's get these kids some spiritual healing so that way they can, nurture that part of themselves and feel good about their bodies and feel good about who they are and not over sexualizing their gender identity, understanding that that's a sacred part of themselves and is to be used in a sacred way. And, we need to kind of pull the perversion out of the collective and the mainstream and kind of humble everybody again and
Well,
kind of, yeah.
I mean, what they're doing is trying to replace the parents with the government, right? And they're removing the parents from the equation and allowing these kids to make the decisions on their own legally, and that's happening, right? Including even getting a jab. But we have to understand that this is, my God, see, this is why I wasn't sure if I wanted to do this tonight. I'm not even fully here. I'm just lost my train of thought again. But oh yeah, so that's what they're doing also is like you said, it's like social media is literally creating socially constructed insecurities, right? Within these young girls in particular. I think they're targeting the girls, but guys too. And we see it. All you have to do is go to LA or Miami or Vegas or whatever, and you see these like people who are literally turning themselves into clowns. They got these lips that are like half the size of their face, and like these cheek implants now, and the butt implants, and then like these gigantic breasts, and they literally like they look like parasites, right? I'm sorry. I've watched some beautiful women, destroy their bodies just because they want to look like the person that they see on Instagram. And that's a big part of it. So it's, the government is replacing the parents, and then social media is what's inspiring, what's, even creating these issues and these desires. So if you can somehow filter what people are seeing online, but that's a whole other, I mean, there's a
And that's
whole
censoring.
chain. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I just want to say, Tyler, it's okay if you feel off tonight. I think all of us feel a little bit off, like just as we discussed coming in about the Schumann resonance, like, we got all kinds of funky stuff going on over here. Like, I've been having some hot sweats for the last few days. The influxes have definitely been affecting me as well. So, I mean, we just
Yeah,
come on and we do our best, It is what it is sometimes.
I just keep losing my train of thought tonight. That's all. Like, wait, where did it go? I'll find it though.
Well, I think this is a great warm up to, you know, what we're going to be talking about tonight, which is, I think Trump effect, the Trump zeitgeist is what I'm calling it. Um, if you don't know what a zeitgeist is, essentially, a zeitgeist is the spirit of the ages, or the spirit of the era, or the spirit of the time. And it's basically a dominating characteristic that's given in an epic in world history. And so it can represent a national spirit and it can also represent a world spirit. And I've been saying this word, I'm like, a zeitgeist, a zeitgeist. And everyone's like, what is she saying? But I'm kind of thinking that Trump is embodying the spirit of time. What I'm kind of seeing is he's having such an impact not only for the shifts and changes that we're experiencing in our country and the peace codes, the freedom codes. I mean, he's working on peace in the Middle East right now, to reforming our spending and our government and all of these things. But I think he's having a worldly effect. I think he's teaching other leaders how to be better leaders, is what I've been noticing. I mean, even today, just um, watching him interact with, I think he just met with the leader of Japan recently. They're going to be doing some auto deals in the United States, and then we seen him meet with Netanyahu that came over and they exchanged the golden pager and the key, and all of a sudden now Trump's going to take over Gaza. And then today, or was it today or yesterday, he met with the King of Jordan, and it to me, when he's meeting with these leaders, it feels like these guys are almost stepping up to the plate to talk to Trump, like Trump's the one that they're paying respect to, and it almost feels like he's having a worldly effect on people, and that he may not even just came to change, and heal the United States and make things better here, make America great again, but it may be that he's gonna be making the world great again. So, I
You
Well,
mean,
know,
you know what? It
yeah.
feels like he opened a Stargate over here. I told you, with everything going on with Stargate 2, Sarasota Siesta Key, as it's being reconfigured and negative things are being shut down there as it is reclaimed as the Gulf of America. In the meantime, there is definitely something going on in the Palm Beach area that's connected to the Bermuda Triangle. It's connected to the Charleston grid work we're going to be doing. I mean, it's off the charts amazing, actually. It actually, to me, it's felt nothing but positive. This is the most positive trip I've had to Florida in years. And I actually hadn't been here. The last time I was here was even probably before Trump and Melania started living permanently at Mar-a-Lago, because that was in 2019.
And I want to actually ask Raquel, because it's so funny. Shekinah Grace says he's waking Canada up, that's for sure. Raquel, how are Canadians feeling with the United States and Trump right now, given this whole tariff war that they're having?
Well,
What
I
would you
think it's a
say?
mixed bag, Indy. There's a lot of hooing and hawing about it, and there's a lot of people that feel that the Canadian culture is being squashed by this endeavor. But there are also a lot of people that feel that the Canadian government and the politicians have been completely suppressing us, and like they've run this country down in the last, I don't know, maybe 10 years, I would say, or ever since Trudeau has been in government. And it's so hard to get him out of his seat. He supposedly has resigned, but he's still, you know, considered as our leader and our prime minister. It's like, what the hell? But with this tariff situation, it's the business people are very happy about it. I think that a lot of them are wanting to now shift their offices to the US, because they feel that that would be a more lucrative way of doing business, because they don't feel the support from the Canadian government. And if things don't settle down, I think you're going to see a lot of business people coming in and setting up shop in the US, because there are a lot of people that have dual citizenship here, right? And so, um, at least from the people that I've heard from, they've said, that that's sort of the consensus, but it keeps fluctuating, because it's a changing situation at the moment, and we haven't yet got a confirmation as to what's going to happen. But I think I mentioned it in a previous roundtable. It's like Trump just throws this wild card out, and he's hoping to get the stars, but eventually he'll probably get the rooftops, right? But that's still more than what he bargained for, right? So I have no idea how it's going to turn out. But when you think about it, and just I think today I sent you guys a link about the Canadian history, and maybe I'll send it to you later on. It was called what was it called now? Canada, the Illusion, I think, is the documentary on YouTube. And this goes in depth into the perversion, so I would say, to how we have been, shielded from what our government is, it truly is. The bottom line is we are not really legal in a way. We are an illegitimate country right now, and we are owned, so to speak, by Great Britain. So if you look
Yeah.
at that and if you take all of that truth in, it's very, very convoluted, it's very dark, it's very deep. So I have a feeling that this might be where he's coming from, where Trump is coming from. Like he's probably got the truth to where we are, you know, in terms of like the legal standing, if you will, in terms of what and who owns Canada, right? And so I
Right.
have a feeling that this is what's going on in the background, but they don't want to scare people, right? Because then, everybody will be up in arms and this goes
That's
back to 1861 or something like that. I have to go back and look at that documentary again. I just skimmed through it, but it was very, very interesting. And ironically, it was shared to me by Shakina Grace, who's in the chat right now. And so thank you and a shout out to Shakina Grace. Yeah, she's posting all the dates there. But yeah, it was truly an amazing documentary. So I would encourage everybody to go and listen to it because there's lots of facts about the background and where Canada comes from. So I have a feeling that this is where Trump is coming from because if that's the case, then he can just swoop in and take Canada um, based on those laws, I suppose, from the 1800s, right? But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. So to answer your question directly, Indy, it's a really a mixed bag. There are many people that support it and there are some that don't. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, definitely. Tyler, were you gonna say something?
yeah. I mean, that was a great analysis. Like, are you talking about the act of 1871 or are you talking about 61?
Think it's 71. I have a feeling it's 71.
Yeah,
Let's see if,
the act of 1871 is when we went from United States for America to of America, and we were turned into a corporation, and we were
yeah,
under the three city empire of the Vatican, DC, and London, and that whole thing. And that's, all of our birth certificates actually belong to the District of Columbia, the United States corporation that we all are owned by is literally in the square miles of the District of Columbia,
yeah.
which is really interesting because when Trump was inaugurated, they actually changed on Google Maps for a couple days and it changed back, but they took the DC off of Washington.
It
And
was
I
on the
went,
invitation as well, wasn't it?
I, what's that?
The District of Columbia was on his inaugural invitation as well.
Oh, so I don't know, but
Yeah,
um, either way, it's back there now, but it was gone. So I thought it was like amazing. I'm like, oh wow, this is actually shifting back into the people's hands. We haven't actually been operating under the Constitution since 1871. That's the whole thing. They've been making moves to make it appear as if they're, operating under the Constitution because they can't be overt about it. But it's overt now, and we understand what we're seeing. But I think what's happening in Canada is people say they want change until it's time to change. And then they're like, wait a second, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, not just Canada, everyone right now.
Hmm.
Even like, let's talk about the boomers, our grandparents, our parents, who really resist change in life. They're set in their ways. And there's nothing wrong with the technology and some of the stuff that, they're being forced to adapt to and use, but they're very resistant of it. And I think that's what's happening because people, life begins outside your comfort zone and people aren't ready for those paradigm shifting changes, like these catalysts that have to occur in your life for you to actually experience growth. That's what's happening right now. So if everyone could like understand that the dark always serves the light, and I mean always, you can look at any dark thing that's ever happened to you in your life and understand, when you reflect back on it, understand that it actually assisted you. And you're like, wow, if that didn't happen, I actually would have been stuck in that situation. Who knows what trajectory you would have been on. So we have to understand like there's a much bigger zoomed out picture here. And I think, there's been a lot of prophecies, I guess you could say, predictions, and even books written about the future borders of our country. And It showed Canada being merged with the United States, us owning Greenland. It shows Alaska going back to Russia, and it shows the Mexican border being pushed on to the Yucatan Peninsula where it bottlenecks because it's a defendable border. I mean, some of these predictions go all the way back to 2004 and maybe even earlier. But that means that this has been a plan. Maybe this has already been done and it's just playing out, but this is the way it has to play out. And we don't understand what has actually, we don't know our true history. So we don't know what has happened behind the scenes for these borders to even be created in the first place. We're just born into a world with borders and like, oh, that's Canada. Oh, that's Mexico, whatever. You don't question it, right? The Gulf of Mexico, it makes a lot more sense to be Gulf America because it's North America, South America, and Central America. It's literally surrounded by the Americas. So a lot of the stuff makes sense. And I think he changed it to the Gulf of America because before the Biden regime went out, they changed the law and made it illegal to drill for oil in the Gulf of Mexico. So Trump's like, okay, well, I'll just change the name to Gulf of America then. And he found that loophole. But either way, I think that people are resisting change, and if we can just understand that this is okay, like what happens? We don't no nobody wanted self-checkout. Now it's here. People just accept it, and we understand like, hey, this is actually kind of convenient. You know, I understand that it takes jobs away, but we all use it because we have to, right? So things are changing, and people are just going to have to accept some of it, and then they're going to realize one day that, you know what, I'm okay. My family's okay, and we're safe, and I think that's what's going on.
Well, I wonder if it just wouldn't serve Canada's best interest to merge with the US because isn't like 60% of their GDP and costs and exports and all of that like with the United States anyways? And they're still under the whole Commonwealth of the monarchy, right, in Great Britain. And I just don't feel that they really have your guys' best interest at heart anyways, because I mean, they haven't even spoke to the open borders or the immigration, and that's a huge problem that essentially has pretty much taken over Ireland and the United Kingdom, and Australia is actually struggling with it, and all these I mean, even Canada too. So they're just watching their Commonwealth countries drown in this mess, and they seem to be the countries that are the most affected and impacted by it. And yet here you see King Charles, what's his wife as her Camilla or Kamala or something? I don't know what her name is. Camilla. Can't get her name right. Camilla.
Chameleon.
Chameleon. Yeah. Well, she's going and visiting all these schools that are predominantly, Muslim schools and things like this, and they just act like, there's nothing wrong with the immigration and the depopulation of the original, Caucasian or British white people or just the indigenous people of the country, of the land that have been there since the birth of their country type of thing. Like they're just watching everything go to crap and not doing anything about it. It makes you wonder, are they just sitting back and just laughing, watching it all fall apart until they can, push the agenda, which is to push ultimately a particular ideology, which is the ideology of submission to make everything go to crap intentionally, and then, institute some type of new world order. So I feel like it's some sort of, it's definitely, deep state
I agree, Indy. I
agenda with
totally
that.
agree with you. I agree. Because if you look at what's happening now, like after Justin Trudeau resigned, he prorogued Parliament, which is that we cannot have Parliament until March, mid-March, or something like that. And you have to understand that the Governor General is essentially given the most power here. So without the permission of the Governor General, he cannot start Parliament all over again. And the Governor General reports directly to the Privy Council in the UK. So, if that string is being pulled right now, they can't do anything. And so we are just sitting like ducks, waiting for Parliament to go back on in March. In the meantime, all of these things are happening, and Trump is doing all of these, making all these big moves, and we can't essentially do anything. And here we have Mark Carney, who's now coming in and trying to become the leader of Canada. He's not even an MP, which is a member of Parliament. He's not in any way, been voted in by the people. So they're trying to usher in this guy from the back door and make him the next prime minister, which is like, it's wrong on so many levels. So there's so many things up in the air right now, and the people essentially have no say in what's happening. So it's really very tricky. And with the parliament door shut, it's like, the people have been silenced. They cannot, put two words together and say anything. Like, yes, there are protests on the street and this and that, but there's nothing significant that we can actually do about it. It was really hard to, first of all, unseat this guy, Trudeau, and now that he's unseated apparently, but he's still prime minister in name, so it's really very strange. It's like there's so much going on, and it's like, yeah, it's very,
Yeah.
very dark and blurry.
The weird thing about Justin Trudeau is that he was basically groomed by Klaus Schwab, World Economic Forum. He was one of the young leaders. So what
Yeah.
makes me question is why? Why did he step down?
Yeah.
Because he was
And then we
groomed for
just
that
had the
position.
and we just
Yeah.
had the WEF completed, right? So who knows what was decided at that meeting, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of
It's
things
I
in the
think it's
dark.
kind of a little strange, in my opinion.
No,
Well,
I
I
totally
think
agree with you.
I think you're a sitting duck until you're no longer a sitting duck. It's like we were a sitting duck when Biden was in office, and now we're no longer a sitting duck. You know what I mean? And so it's kind of like, I don't know. I mean, at the rate Trump's going, I mean, it looks like he can do a lot of things at once. He's pretty good at multitasking, and maybe there's a way that there's something that can work out that Canada can still maintain their own individuality, because I think what I've noticed is that's what Canadians are mostly resistant to is they don't want to not I mean they're proud of their national heritage, so they don't want to
Yep.
like lose that. That's
They
part
would
of their
fight.
identity.
I
Yeah.
think they would fight.
Well, that's what I was trying to say earlier. Like, as scary as the change may be, like there's actually like you're gonna realize you're okay. Like somebody made a great argument the other day on some video I watched, about somebody was like just talking to like one of the liberals or something. They're like, all right, tell me how any single move that Trump has made has personally affected your life. And they couldn't do it. They could not do it. These things are such a social construct of an illusionary issue that doesn't actually come down and affect us. We've been affected far worse up until this point. And the moves that are being made now are to dismantle an ancient cabal. And there is no pretty way to do it. There's no perfect way to do it, and it's gonna be messy. Things change in the fog of war. There's moves and counter moves. Nobody knows what the hell's going on. Everything we see playing out on the surface is a byproduct of a much deeper war being fought, a shadow war that we may never understand who the true players are. So we have to just understand that there's so much more than we could sit here and debate this stuff all day, but there are just things we don't know, and you don't know what you don't know. And bottom line is, I think we have to like zoom out always and understand like it's gonna be okay. And we can, anything that the media is pushing, that's we understand what that machine is for. It's to instill fear and divide us. So, I mean, we can literally disconnect from everything. If we all threw away our TVs and our phones and everything, we would be fine. I guarantee it. You know what I mean? So there are things happening around the world, and I'm not trying to discredit that at all because we know people are dying, children are being trafficked. There's very real issues here, but that's what all these moves that are being made are doing. It's trying to dismantle that and expose that. And people are having a really difficult time, for one, even believing that that stuff was happening in the first place. So if they didn't know it was happening in the first place, none of this stuff makes any sense because they haven't even the enemy hasn't even been identified for some of these people because they're literally living in such a program. They've been so brainwashed. So at this point, like it's not going to be pretty. It's just going to be chaotic. It's like systematic chaos moving forward, I think is what we're looking at.
Should we
I
just
I
bring up
agree
a
with
picture
Tyler.
of should we
Yeah.
just bring up a picture of the Draco and show them the enemy?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that I mean, absolutely. But I mean, like we understand the war that's playing out, but the public, like I'm realizing now, like our Instagram account is like somehow blowing up, and we're reaching all these like what you call normies, I guess. And they are just like they don't understand the content that they're coming across. It doesn't make any sense to them. These people are just beside themselves. Blasphemy, they can't. It doesn't compute because they've had the wool pulled down over their eyes for so long. So, um, some people are receptive to change, and those are the people that we should spend time on and energy with, and the people that just want to, throw their hands up in disgust. We all enter this game at different points in time, in different points in the game. And, somebody might be entering the game as somebody's on their way out. It doesn't mean that the person entering the game is any less significant than you are or any more important than you are or whatever the case is, because they're just, and that's where they're at on their journey.
I
think
agree with you,
Trump,
Tyler, with what you're saying.
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Raquel. Yeah, that totally makes sense when you step back and you look at it from, like a higher perspective, then yes, we are going to be okay. And I think what people really fear is death. And so when you start becoming okay with death, you start stepping back and realizing like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm a divine being. Like if I drop this skin, I'm going to continue on. This is not the end, And so when I look at these things and I look at the chaos that could potentially be rolling out, I always go to that space within myself, return inward within myself so I can feel secure, as these changes go down.
And it all ties in with what they call the event, the solar flash event, possibly the age of Aquarius, Atlantis rising. I mean, that's what I've been feeling since I've been here. I actually feel like this might be an Atlantean correction where we get a chance to do the thing right this time instead of wrong.
Well, the halls of Amenti literally just got discovered. I don't know if you guys seen that. Like, there's a huge press conference happening in Egypt on March 15th, which just happens to be the day that I leave for Egypt. But they have discovered, with their new technology, they have discovered an entire underground civilization infrastructure, with caverns, tunnel networks, shafts that goes at least a mile deep, caverns as big as the pyramids themselves, potential artifacts, um, tombs, a number of things, but they're saying it fits, and over and over in their own description from very credible people, they're saying it fits the description of the halls of Amenti. And what are we going to get out of those records? We're going to get the history of Atlantis and the downfall of Atlantis and what happened to those people. And I think that's the timing of it is no coincidence. It's happening right now. Gobekli Tepe. There's some stuff happening over there right now. They're starting to cut down 1,000 trees that were planted to protect that site. They're ripping the trees out and they're going to keep excavating. They're going to find probably Knights Templar treasure, something to do, or some religious artifacts. Potentially, if you've seen the show The Gift, it talks about a portal or a Stargate into another reality. So, I mean, things are about to get weird. I think these archaeological discoveries are going to start happening at a very rapid pace, and the world is changing, the history is changing. That's why I said this isn't the consensus reality that we grew up in. Not everyone's going to agree on one single thing anymore. Like we are branching off, and there's a bifurcation happening for sure, and that's where the split is occurring. This new Earth and old Earth.
Well, and also, Tyler, I just want to say this one thing, Missy, that as these new dimensions are, as we're becoming more aware and gaining more knowledge, these dimensions are opening us. The original dimensions, or the dimensions where these things exist, are opening up to us because we are also shifting in our conscious awareness as well. So it really makes sense. And then I just wanted to add on to that there's also a lot of multiple inner Earth sites around the world, over 120 something sites. And so when you said that reminded me of an inner Earth site.
Yeah.
And isn't it interesting that now we're finally going to get somebody that's going to actually work on investigating what UFOs, UAPs, USOs, and all this stuff is. I mean, I'm like, hallelujah. We've been waiting for this 9/11 among other things.
Right. Yeah.
Ani,
yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to ask Ani, though, you were going to bring some information in tonight that you looked up regarding Trump, and it had something to do with Abraham Lincoln and
so I got the intuition download that a higher density being has walked in for Trump, so to speak. And that higher density being is the spirit of the time. So there's the spirit of the time, and there's also the spirit of the depths as well. I just wanted to bring that in, and I'd like to kind of talk about that a little bit as well. But what happened with Abraham Lincoln, and this is where I got my information, was from the Law of One, the channeling of Ra. And I go back to him a lot, or them a lot, because I just feel like it's the most in-depth channeling that I've ever come across, and I have studied it extensively. And so what Ra said in this book, and you guys can go and find it yourself. It's 35.6 to 35.8 channel session. He basically said that Abraham Lincoln was having serious physical, mental, and spiritual pain within his presidency, the actual Abraham Lincoln that was born in the body. And so in his sleep, a fourth density being came to him and offered to him to step into the body to play out the dark and light issues that were going on, because they were trying, it was the civil rights movement, basically, kind of civil rights and ending slavery type thing. And so he agreed. And so what happened is that this higher density being stepped into the body and put the soul of Abraham in a kind of holding suspension plane and played out the karma, all of the karma that the original soul was going to play out, played it out for him so that they could work on this dark and light situation going on during that time. And it did end in, he was assassinated. And so Ra did say that he was assassinated by an entity from Orion constellation, which is kind of interesting. So I don't know. I mean, you guys can.
I think that's exactly what's happening with Trump. There's definitely, like, he's been anointed, right? And he carries that energy. There's a friend of mine met him. This guy his name's David Anderson. We interviewed him. He is what I call an earth angel. This dude performs miracles like Jesus, and I don't say that lightly. He's literally brought people back from the dead, and I'm not joking. Anyway, when he met Trump, he saw that there was this anointing on him, and he was like there to deliver this message, and he's very protected. Very protected. And then there's another guy who is claiming to have seen these angels surrounding Trump. And no one's ever tuned in any other president and seen that. Maybe JFK, who knows? But I think that there's something higher going on here. And whenever there's evidence of that, whenever you post one of those clips online, the bot farms they get turned on, they get switched on, and you will see literally the most vile, disgusting side of humanity you've ever seen. As soon as you say Trump is protected by angels, every demon, every parasite is flipped on, and they come out and to freaking play. You know what I mean? And they do whatever they can. That's why they didn't show Trump on TV once at the Super Bowl. These people, this Orion group that still has control of the media and the Super Bowl, Trump, that should have been the main story. The first sitting president at the Super Bowl, they showed him for literally not even one full second during the national anthem. And that's it. And they didn't mention his name. I watched the whole game as like a research project. They didn't mention his name, talk about, nothing. He might as well have been non-existent. And they intentionally kept the camera off him. They showed every celebrity and every not insignificant person that was at that game, zoomed in on their face. So there's Adam Sandler, there's Taylor Swift, there's blah, blah, blah. No Trump. Why? Because they're not gonna, they know it's game over for them. They're not gonna, they probably paid the network $1 trillion, and that don't put that motherfucker on camera. What, you know what I mean? Like, they're pissed about what's happening right now, and that's why they've been going after him.
I
Because
seen a couple takes with him walking out on the field, and it looked like, I mean, I didn't watch the game, so I don't know, they probably didn't, but maybe there was some side takes or something, because it looked like he got like a full standing ovation, like the whole
yeah,
place
no,
just.
so that all happened, but it wasn't shown on on TV, the whatever.
The main
The main so there's like News Nation and these other networks that were covering it, and they had cameras, and there's other angles and all their footage. But what the people saw, the the chicken wing eating, pizza eating Super Bowl fans. I'm not trying to stereotype anybody, but what the people saw was a football game. They had nothing to do with President Trump being there.
Hmm.
Hmm.
It could also be for protection as well,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think you're right, Ani. Like, I think he's embodied, like you said, a fifth dimensional soul being,
Mhm.
and you can just see it because, yeah, it looks like he's executing things with precision. It does feel like to me he's carrying the Zeus like thunderbolt or something like but not in a negative way, like in a way that it's like commanding or like holding the trident or something. Like he's having solutions to problems and he's speaking with authority from a place of high integrity and morality. And this is something that the whole world has been crying out for, especially with this whole Middle East war, because the whole hostage situation, I feel like, people don't know whether to openly show that they have care and concern for things out of fear that they're going to be attacked, out of fear of choosing sides, out of whatever it is. But it's just like he's coming in with like a strong moral compass.
Yeah.
And speaking to, there's actually a video we have which I feel like almost highlights this. And when I seen this video, you guys may have seen it too. It's one where he's issuing the warning to Hamas for the hostages, saying that they looked like Holocaust victims. I think we should watch
Yeah.
it because there's so much authority and just like,
He's
it's the way
changed.
he's speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
it's
changed. He's not the same as 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
And do you think that happened whenever he dodged the bullet?
I
Like when
think
he went
I think
down
it
and came up?
oh, you during then? I think it happened afterwards. I think that was a catalyst and then afterward it happened because from that point on there was a huge shift.
Yeah.
So, and who knows when the transition might have happened, like with Abraham Lincoln, it was in the sleep state, you know. But it'd be really interesting to go back and even do like a psychological study and see the difference in behavior,
Right. Well, I
as
mean,
he's
there's so many people
progressed.
that claim the real Trump is dead and that he's been cloned. I mean, there's a million theories on that.
I don't see cloning though. You would see more, I don't know, like disengagement or
Well, I mean,
disassociation.
maybe, but people don't understand how sophisticated a clone can be. And I'm not saying that Trump's a
That's true.
clone, but I think there's a lot more going on there. There's a whole theory that Trump was actually they knew that he was going to make major changes. So at a very young age, he was taken over by a very dark entity that was kind of steering him down this darker path through life. And at some point during at some point he was saved. At some point he was like literally saved, I don't know, by Jesus or whatever that happened, but this thing was removed from him and he was able to get back on path into alignment with what he came here to do. But they really did try. Like I listened to somebody like they laid it out and it made sense. Like they tried to take him over at a young age and steer him down the path of darkness because they knew that he was going to be a major threat one day.
I watched the hostages come back today, and they looked like Holocaust survivors. They were in horrible condition. They were emaciated. It looked like many years ago, the Holocaust survivors. And I don't know how much longer we can take that. When I watch that, I know we have a deal where we're supposed to they dribble in and keep dribbling in, but they are in really bad shape. They have been treated brutally, horribly. Even the ones that came out earlier, they were in a little bit better shape, but mentally they were treated so badly. Who could take that? At some point, we're going to lose our patience. When I see that scene that I saw today with people coming out of helicopters and airplanes that are emaciated, that look like they haven't had a meal in a month, no reason for that, and I don't know how much longer we can take it.
Do you mean you want to recast?
I don't know how long we can take it. When I watch people that were healthy people a reasonably short number of years ago, and you look at them today, they look like they've aged 25 years. They 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 literally look like the old pictures of Holocaust survivors. The same thing. I mean, the same thing. And I don't know how long we're going to take that.
Yeah, it's just the way he's saying that, right? It's like
Mhm.
it's almost like every time he's speaking, he knows he's not just speaking to the people watching. He knows he's speaking to the leaders of Hamas. He knows he's speaking to the leaders of the world. And so everything he's delivering is a direct message to them. And you
Yeah.
can see it and you can feel it. And that gives you a sense of like, wow, we actually have a commander in chief. We actually have somebody who has big balls. We actually have somebody who's brave, that's really, looking out for the best interest of humanity in some sense. Because I mean, when were we going to have somebody finally say that, like, and actually speak to this situation over there and this whole hostage thing that's going on? I mean, it's been hard to sit back and just watch that squander in the wind and nothing's happening with it. To the point that they're all emaciated now and almost dying and dead. I mean, most of them have died. I think there's only like 100 of them left, but I actually have a picture. I'm sure you guys have seen the pictures of all of the hostages, but let me see where the picture is, but it's just really sad.
Someone who's in control of the helm instead of asleep at the wheel, like it's been.
Right. I mean, you have to have somebody with a backbone and to even do it.
Well, he sort of seeded all of this in his last term, right? So it's as if he didn't have enough time to bring all of that to fruition, and he's doing it now on many levels.
Yeah, I mean, look how healthy this guy
Yeah.
was before, and I
Yeah.
mean, that's just.
Were they brought back? Are these the ones that were released?
Yeah, these were the three that were released. And what I feel like is just so ridiculous is I think Israel had to give them like 200 prisoners for three hostages. The round before, I think they got four women back, and they had to give up like 100, like I don't even know, it was like 170 prisoners just to get those women, and another 200 prisoners just to get these three guys. I'm like, that's ridiculous. I mean, that should not be being accepted at all either, that they're having to do that. I mean, the scales are just so inverted and, you know,
It's a very precarious situation, though. Like you have, these people to Hamas are expendable, unfortunately. So you got to play the game very diplomatically. And I'm saying game because it is a game.
well, I think
Right.
Israel has to play the game
Yeah.
diplomatically because they're at more of, I guess you could say, they're not in a good spot. I mean, they're
No.
surrounded by all Arab nations, and it doesn't seem like they do have a lot of worldly support
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to that. And every single country is trying to issue sanctions on them for trying to defend themselves. So, what
Mm-hmm.
what did they have? You can see Trump's definitely like what I find so interesting is how it's taken Trump to go, well, if the hostages aren't back by Saturday at noon, I mean, he just flat out gave them the deadline, and then Israel said, okay, we're going along with Trump's deadline. Because they couldn't say that themselves, because they didn't have, I guess, I don't know, maybe a backbone to push that,
They
you
don't have
know,
the military.
yeah, they didn't have the authority or
Right.
would it be respected? I don't know.
I mean,
But
you're talking about an area of the world that has known nothing but war. And I mean, it's an entire traumatized, like the land itself
Mm-hmm.
is traumatized. So if we're gonna do anything, I mean, this is like I don't know if, like I said, there's not a perfect plan, but I think that this is a very, very, very first step of probably years of a cleanup, and it's not going to be pretty, and people don't understand what's going on. They've been born into these religions that have taught them to hate people, and they don't even understand why they hate other people because their beliefs have been handed to them. They've never had a chance to even decide on their own, and they're so, set in their ways, and it's really like generational mind control, and that all has to be dismantled, and these people have to be deprogrammed. And I think that we're seeing the results of that, the byproduct of all that mind programming and manipulation, but also the byproduct of war and what that has done to these family lines for generations. And I think, uh,
I
this
think you
is,
were spot on though when you said that the land has to heal because I
yeah,
think what I was picking up earlier too is that it kind of reminds me of, the Arkansas grid work that we did in a way because it's like the Trail of Tears. I mean, yeah, okay, it's great that they want to have a solution for Gaza to create peace in the Middle East. It does seem like, Egypt and the king of Jordan are all starting to kind of come around and they're going to start working on things and try to find a place for the Palestinian people. So, because some of the reporters were like, well, this is a genocide if you just, take their land. And Trump's saying, no, we're going to find a nice place for them. The king of Jordan's going to take 2,000 of the children and they're going to get them going into hospitals, all the ones that are, very injured. And they're trying to find a plan for them and find them land and homes and get them into a place but get them away from Israel because it's like two kids that have been fighting for centuries that it can't happen anymore. So there has to be some sort of solution that comes down because it's like no more, we're done with it. And I feel like that's kind of where we're at. And I feel like that's, a lot of people are gonna really, I think, rally for this at the end of the day because it's a solution and people are ready for the warring to end. It's the time for peace. But with Gaza, it's like, yeah, that land is traumatized. There's entrapped souls, all in that land. And there's going to be, just so much energy healing and work. And it's like, do you really want to go in and build all this stuff on that land? I mean,
right.
I think they need to let it sit and clear and bring the land shamans in and kind of do some passing of souls and crossing of souls because there's so much grief and sorrow that's going to be stuck there that's going to be really hard to release it that, my thing is that it's going to be kind of hexed and vexed and cursed. And I mean,
Hmm.
you might not see your businesses do too well over there, or, a lot of strange things are going to happen because there's so much shock and trauma and devastation and lack of trust in spirit and just betrayal and abandonment and fear. And it's saturated worse than anywhere else in the world. And it's portal straight into the 1D Earth. Remember when we talked about the 1D Earth when I came on? I
Hmm.
mean, it's like the opening point to the 1D Earth, really.
Right. Yeah, I think, well, and it's interesting about all the fires and these areas that are being targeted, North Carolina, Hawaii, Sacramento, or LA, whatever just burned Palisades. I think there's a lot of darkness there too. And yeah, the land is beautiful, but there's a lot of darkness. Like we zoom out, what's happening? The fire is cleansing. So, and then now California is being bombarded with like records, crazy tropical storms now. So the fire element came through. Now the water element came through. Like Mother Nature is also playing her part in cleansing this land as well. And these areas that are being targeted contain the most darkness. And it's just like the purging of the planet or the dog shaking the fleas off, as that we've all heard that analogy. But I want to read something really quick. So my dad found this book. He's into Native American stuff, and it's the Bear Reliance Self-Reliance Guide. It's a Hopi prophecy book. Not even really a prophecy book, but in the book there is a Hopi prophecy. And this was written in the 90s, and he took a picture of this page and sent it to me. He's like, "Listen to this and tell me what it reminds you of." This is written in the 90s, remember, by the Hopi. It says, "It is known that our true white brother, when he comes, will be all powerful, and he will wear a red cap or red cloak. He will be large in population and belong to no religion but his very own. He will bring with him the sacred stone tablets. Great will be his coming. None will be able to stand against him. All power in this world will be placed in his hand, and he will come swiftly and in one day get control of this whole continent." Hopi have been warned, whatever. It just goes on to some other stuff. But Um, it's really interesting. The true white brother, the red cap, and coming in to do a cleanup in a Hopi prophecy. I don't know.
Yeah, listen to the indigenous people.
Right.
They carry the first instructions. So we need to listen to the elders.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I just found it like no coincidence. Not saying that he's like I don't know, bringing the sacred stone tablets, but who knows, like with the archetype of what he is actually doing on levels, dimensional dimensions that we just can't perceive yet.
Well,
Yeah,
when you said the tablets, I was just immediately brought back to what you were bringing up with all the excavation and, the halls of Amenti and everybody discovering, these artifacts. So it's just interesting the timing, right, of all that happening, and it kind of goes in alignment with what you just shared in the prophecy. So,
They'll
Right,
find the rest of the emerald tablets.
right. Well, there's a whole theory that the emerald tablets that we've been shown aren't even the real ones
Yeah.
anyway. There's a girl, Mary Beaver, who we've interviewed, but she was actually brought into the military because she could speak an ancient Phoenician language. She was born with it. I don't know. Somehow the military found out, and they brought her in, and she claims that she was brought in to literally decipher the original emerald tablets because they still couldn't read them. And she said that the ones that are on the internet are not the tablets that the real emerald tablets. Like they don't even know what the original ones said, at least at the time when she was in the army, because she literally was brought in to decipher them, and they got mad at her because they thought they found somebody that could decipher them and translate them. And she's like, this is a dialect. I don't understand this. I know some of it, but this is something even beyond me. So if that's true, maybe it's not, but if that's true, um, we might not know what the Emerald tablets say at all, you know?
Mm-hmm. True. Very true. Well, supposedly the ones that are on the internet were channeled by that one guy, right? Um,
Yeah, I don't even know the whole story behind that,
yeah.
but
well, do you guys want to take a second and just look over at the grid map for just a moment and see if anything comes through in terms of the Gaza Strip? And we'll just take maybe 10 minutes to do that, and then we'll probably wrap up the show for the night. But yeah, I thought we would just take a look and see if anything comes to us, if we get any energetic downloads or anything coming through. I'll just zoom out a little bit so you can put it in perspective. I had a bunch of lines on here because it does seem like there's quite a Stargate network. I do feel like Jerusalem is a Stargate, the Temple Mount, Al-Aqsa is an Anunnaki Stargate, and then Cairo as well. So it's interesting because, Gaza's right in between, a massive Stargate network. Let's see, pull out.
So what's
It's America.
interesting?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Ronnie.
You
They
can go
predict
first.
America to be the new Jerusalem too. You've heard that, right?
I've heard that. I've also heard, America has apparently is the original Egypt too. I mean, we have Egypt and Sedona right here in southern Illinois. I literally just drove through Cairo, and there's Pyramid Lake and Egypt Lake, and it's all named after Egyptian cities. There was Egyptian artifacts found. I mean, Egyptian gold. There's stuff here, but it's not mainstream. Um,
Right.
it- it's all
And
over. But I think
right.
that the U.S. plays a much more significant role in all of this story than we understand either. Also.
And it's so
Indy,
interesting. No, it's so interesting. I charted this with red and blue, and I charted this way like maybe like
long
a
ago.
year ago, and I have red, white, and blue all over here. That's kind of strange.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Indy, can you just zoom out a little bit because what I'm seeing, I just want to see, yeah, how far it is from Cairo. Okay, so what I'm seeing right here is in ancient times, the water was probably not as high up on the land. So there must be something in those waters right there from Port Said, even like around through Alexandria, all the way up to the Gaza Strip. I bet there's something in those waters.
Yeah, I would definitely. I mean, the whole vibe is there's something in the water, there's something
Mm-hmm.
underground, inner Earth connection, otherworldly stargates. There's people that claim that the reason that people have been fighting over that part of the world forever is because that's where the most stargates are, or maybe the most significant stargates, and it's been, a battle for who has access to those portals. Um, I think you're onto something though with the water. I feel that too.
Indy, do you remember we did a grid work mission on that water
We did, yeah.
with that spring that we activated, that ancient spring that was under there?
And the Mediterranean is just magical in itself anyways. I mean, it's definitely the womb waters of the planet. And also the Archangel Michael ley line, runs right down through here as well. I think Al-Aqsa Mosque is where it runs into the Temple Mount up from Ireland. So, there's that. And they have a lot of, like Tyler was saying, like a lot of technology here. Like they have mo planetary modification and weapon systems all running here as well because it's such a high energy area. Like they do probably tap off and run blue beam technology and Armageddon pulse technology and just all of this stuff, like they can run through CERN down through that Archangel Michael ley line, antagonistic patterning, war patterning. The spike matrix from inside of the planet can come up and hit that. And I wonder sometimes if they're not just operating that whole internal spike matrix and just constantly keeping like a spike rod up underneath the grids to constantly aggravate the Al-Aqsa Mosque and, run all of the war codes through the three Abrahamic religious bloodlines. I mean, it's so entangled to, I think, the negative machinery that they have. It's so weaponized that it may be a good thing to get the people off this land for some time to try to extract and, like Trump said he was going to do, like dig out the tunnels and the bombs and all of the stuff that's there. I mean, how else are they going to get, all the negative stuff out if there's people all over it and war over it all over the time? Like there's definitely needs to be some time where the clearing process can happen and
You know,
hopefully it's going to strengthen the grids.
that makes perfect sense to me. Like, okay, imagine if you're an ET race and you're coming to the planet and all the problem spots are highlighted and you see exactly what needs to be done. What would you do looking down at the planet? You would say, okay, first thing we need to do is move all the people out of this area and put them over here so we can clean this up. Like it's so simple of a solution. It is to like move the people out and clear up that land. Yet the process and the politics involved make it, obviously nearly impossible. But I think that's absolutely what needs to happen.
Well, and this is a whole Stargate network here because this Gulf of Aden is, well, this is an underwater Orion Stargate port. The Red Sea, all of this has been known to be the Anunnaki passageways. We know that a lot of them come in, underwater. And the tip of, what is this part? Because that's not Saudi Arabia. This is, I'm not sure what that is. Sharm el-Sheikh. Sharm el-Sheikh, yeah. This is, I think this is where the actual ancient Anunnaki Stargate ports have been known to be located. And, so this is, and then this would be the Kaaba, and this
Oh, the
connects,
Kaaba's right there.
yeah, that's the Kaaba,
And
and we know that's a Saturn black cube system in Matrix. So this might be, the point of the hive mind or the hive control. And it's definitely a Stargate, though, at the same time. Or a man-made Stargate, or even a pre-Atlantean Stargate if they had some sort of CERN um, technology running up underneath the land in previous eras and root races, and then they're just repatterning there with their anti-clockwise spirals, and then connecting it into Giza, hijacking Giza and the Al-Aqsa Mosque. I mean, it's a control system, and it's literally Gaza is like smack dab in the middle of it.
And highlight
Wow.
the Nile River, because the Nile River supposedly flows backwards from south to north. And you know what else does? The French Broad River in western North Carolina is one of the oldest rivers in the world that flows from south to north.
And the Mississippi River also flowed from south to north after an earthquake in the 1800s. But there's people that have done um, digs on the Mississippi River, calling it either the mini Nile or the original Nile. Like there, either way, there's a connection with the Mississippi, and like within the word Mississippi is ISIS, and there's just so many things.
Mm,
I know Dave
interesting.
Patrick Childress talked a lot about that, that the waters were not barriers but ways of travel, and that's why they found Egyptian and Olmec and all these old ruins of and
Right,
artifacts and mummies and all kinds of stuff in southern Illinois.
right. Yeah, no, it's unbelievable. People just don't know. That's why we did our documentary on the Cahokia Mounds and the surrounding area. And it kind of opened a lot of people's eyes because they don't know that the Cahokia Mounds is literally the largest North American pyramid complex in the country, in North America. An ancient site that has all these ties to Egypt and just things that people don't know about because that history is not in our textbooks. But I'm totally with you, Indy, that that is a control system. Like it's a grid. It creates the matrix. I mean, that's
And
how they do it.
Definitely.
I have to bring this through. I keep seeing this like mirroring technology between this space and America, how we keep going back and forth. There's something there by purpose. There's something there connecting like within Mother Earth. There's something, and somebody was just talking about in the comments about the inner Earth
Right.
passageways, but there's something just very different than anything I've ever felt into and working on the grids and this coming through this mirroring technology between these spaces.
Well,
And why, right? Why is that? Why would they want to do that?
so I want you to, right, I want you to look at the land here and the colors. What you're looking at over there in Egypt and Algeria, Libya, all that whole area, Saudi Arabia, it's a scar. It's a battle wound. Like, look at how it was green. Now, Indy, if you can go zoom in on Utah in the southwest, it's the same scar. It's not as prominent as that because it's not as big, but there's a scar there too. And that's where, it's
Maria.
actually
Yeah.
That's
depending
Lemuria right there. And
depending on
then
which m map you
yeah,
look at, that scar is a lot bigger looking. But either way, we see destruction in every ancient site there that looks like it was melted from above. And the whole meltology theory, we're talking about direct energy weapons, something that we're talking, yeah, ancient battles, direct energy weapons, nukes, whatever the hell they were. Um, they're scars.
And Indy, this brings me back to that same gridwork mission or one of them that we were doing where we were decoding that land and the lack of water and how that really contributed to the war codes and what is still going on to this day with that lack of water and what that does to the land and to the inhabitants.
The Mormons also, Joseph Smith was obsessed with Egypt and mummies and different things. And when I stood on the Great Salt Lake, when I was, drove a truck with Ron, after not much sleep at all, I mean, I could actually feel Egyptian things buried, like there was some kind of history there. And when you see the Grand Canyon and when you go to some of these places by Zion and places in Utah, these rocks, the way they are, it looks like something happened instantly almost. Or, I
Right.
mean, maybe it was over time, but to me, it looks like instantly. Like, how are they in these positions? It's just so wild.
No, it was like it's almost the equivalent of being flash frozen. Like
Yeah.
something, it was a direct energy attack. I mean, there is literally evidence of it when you're on the ground. Like if you've ever been to Chaco Canyon, I've been a few times, you can see in the rock walls where it looks like laser beam destroyed it and it was like a blast site. I mean, it's so apparent whenever you go in with that mindset, you're like, oh, this is a battlefield. I'm standing in ruins. And then we go there with no knowledge of our history. I'm like, wow, this is so beautiful. But I was with one of my friends who's one of the most gifted channels that I've ever met. And whenever she channels, they kind of see through her eyes and they explain a different story. And they explain they were crying. She was crying on their behalf because they remembered what the area looked like before the battle, before the destruction. And they tried to explain it to us how beautiful this was. And they said these cities extended into the sky and there was crystal cities and other dimensions above them. And this was literally like a paradise. And then they saw the dark forces coming and there was nothing they could do. So what they did was they dismantled as many of their pyramid sites around the world that they could. That's why some of them look like they're just kind of doesn't make sense. They weren't destroyed, but they're just laying all over randomly. They literally dismantled their own technology before the dark could come and take it over. And they didn't get to dismantle all of them in time. And some of those ancient sites were taken over and the pyramids, were inverted. But there was a major, major cataclysm that happened far long before the Bible and all of that stuff. I mean, there are stories on this planet that we just don't know.
Also, I think some of those people went underground. That's where the inner earth cities come
Yeah.
in,
Yeah.
and so maybe within that area around Gaza, Egypt, that whole area, maybe those beings that were in that area might have been, how do we know they weren't darker entity type beings and they went underground there?
Yeah.
So they're holding that type of technology and then, as it spreads out around the planet, but there's different entities
Yeah.
underground.
And we're talking about a civilization that was multidimensional as well. I don't know if you know what a sipapu is. If you ever
Mm-hmm.
seen like Chaco Canyon, those round pits,
Yep.
and within the pit is a smaller pit that they call sipapu, and literally like the sign will say it was a fire pit, but I came across the Phoenix Journals, which is like an old kind of like a ufology type of disclosure journal from like the 80s, and there was a story called the Sipapu Odyssey. And I read it, and it literally talked about these people who were driving down the road in the southwest near Chaco Canyon, and their car wrecked, and there was one guy woke up inside of like this Native American like hut, right? And he walked out and it looked like he looked like he had gone back in time and he couldn't figure it out because they should have been in the ruins of Southwest. But he was at a time he said there was green grass and there was cattle grazing and it was absolutely beautiful. And what he saw, what he witnessed, he said the people were literally going through a portal. They would step into the Sipapu, into the portal, and then they would like do something with their hands and they would just disappear. That was a portal in the middle of all these sites, and we're told it was a fire pit, you know? So
Yep.
these were supposed to be just regular Native Americans that
Yeah.
built these things. So
It's
we're
interesting.
yeah,
Same with Mount Shasta too. I just interviewed Lowell Johnson and he basically was pulled through a portal into the Lemurian city Telos
right,
under Mount Shasta. Same thing.
right.
It's interesting.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
it's all exciting, isn't it? Like all these things that we find when we discover. And so this is kind of why we like to do grid work and why we like to learn about grid work and like why we like to do remote missions and boots on the ground missions because we psychically explore ourselves and we intuit, all of the natural energy systems and what's happening in the earth and how we can spiritually work with these things. And so I just wanted to let everybody know that's tuned in with us tonight that our February Gridwork remote mission will be a part of the New Earth prophecy course that we're doing. And so we're really going to be focusing on the gold grid and the gold core because it's very healing and it's very harmonizing and it's carrying a lot of the freedom and peace codes. And it's very aligned to the New Earth prophecy. And so
Mhm.
in this mission, um, I don't think we're going to be working on Gaza, but now I'm thinking maybe we should work on Gaza a little bit. Um, I had kind of thought that we would focus more on Sarasota Stargate 2 because there's just so much happening at that Stargate right now as we have, the chemtrailing, the artificial frequencies, the bacterial fog, the Metatronic flowering, and the moving of the gate system itself not being stabilized. So that's kind of interesting. So we might be, remote viewing that more and try to bring stability to Stargate 2. Um, Working on possibly Mar-a-Lago and Stargate 3, the Bermuda Triangle, clearing the Draco swarm energy and any negative Atlantean priest grid black magic, eliminating dark AI nanotechnology. And this is going to deeply connect into the boots on the ground mission that we're doing in South Carolina, as well as I think that there is Stargate triangulation that's occurring from Stargate 2 to Bermuda to Charleston. So we'll be decoding more of these things in our remote mission as well. We'll be working on the galactic coast, on the East Coast, because there's so much UFO activity and blue beam technology and AI weaponry in the skies right now. And we'll also be working on clearing the Gulf of America and everything connecting over to Stargate 10, which I feel Stargate 10 is kind of umbrella for that whole Stargate system that we just seen in the Red Sea, going down to the Kaaba, going up to Al Aqsa Mosque, the Temple Mount, over to Giza. So they're all energetic ley lines that are interconnecting, and this will be the main focus for us in the coursework. So you do have to join the course to join February's mission, but we will be highlighting the mission for people to watch. Um, but they can't participate in it unless they join the course. So maybe we can drop a link in the chat. So if anyone's interested in joining the New Earth Prophecy course, this will be kind of what we're focused on for the actual group remote mission. And then, of course, we'll be focusing on activating the gold Earth core and the golden grid and the gold DNA activation because this will help us really establish our energetic connections to the New Earth timelines and upgrade our divine blueprint to the 12th dimensional blueprint and just be overall, I think, a lot of healing and a lot of psychic activation for all of these upgrades that we're going to be getting in the coming of the golden age. So it's kind of exciting. I haven't done a remote gold grid activation in a remote session before, so it's definitely going to be all new material. And you guys remember the video that we did last time where we were talking about this ley line network from the Bermuda up to Calgary. There's actually a lake up here, and then this is going over to Mount Shasta, and we made this deep connection with these ley lines. And then also that main AI ley line that we found from Mount Shasta down to Abilene, Texas, down to the tip of Miami. So we're going to probably be working really on clearing this ley line in the course. And then, of course, also the J seals as well. Always working on that. It seems to be a continuous thing that never really ends because it's like these wormhole systems are kind of tricky, right? They're just, and I think they turn on and turn off. So sometimes they're more activated than others. And I noticed when they activate, you can literally feel black hole systems running in your body, siphoning your energy. And what I actually seen psychically the other day was I started to see that people were actually carrying black holes in their DNA. So it wasn't just that they're running on the tonal lines in the body, but then I was literally seeing like these little black platelets in the
Hmm.
DNA that looked like black holes that they were wormholing into the DNA itself. So we're going to be working on healing and clearing and restoring and collapsing down those old Earth negative ET timelines and just really, using our collective thought and collective manifestation to try to help heal and restore. So I hope that everyone is going to be joining that for me, with me. I know everyone in this live tonight is joining, except for maybe Tyler, but I'd like to extend the invitation. Of course, you're invited to come as well, but all of my divine sisters will be there for this. And yeah, I'm so excited, and I hope everyone attends. So. Yeah, and does anyone have any last messages that they would like to
So,
say for
so
everyone watching tonight?
this grid work thing, what you're talking about, is it something you do online or is it a physical thing?
It's online. It's a
Okay.
live course event, so it's done via Zoom.
Okay.
And yeah, everything's recorded, though, if people can't make it to the live session. The only thing I would encourage you to get to live is the remote session. So you may want to come, or at least be able to catch up on the replays, which we do try to get them up right after the class ends that night. So that way anybody who missed the class can watch them that night. But yeah, it's a full teaching, a full, until drop. We cover everything from the beginner levels of grid work all the way to the advanced, and just trying to help people get to that facilitation level so that way they can actually be, proficient in remote grid energy reading and can put together missions themselves and read the natural and organic blueprints of the earth and
Nice.
utilize that to create missions and basically work on behalf of the Guardian rescue teams on the planet. So yeah, it's exciting. We're excited. We can't wait. And
Yeah, that's amazing.
yeah. Um, But yeah, thank you everyone for watching. This was a really good show. We went into so many different ways, and I mean, it was really, really cool. And it was really nice to have Tyler here and his perspective. He brought in so much that I think we don't normally expand into. So it was really good to have your perspective here tonight. And I think we all appreciated it.
Well, I hope so. Like I said, I don't know what I can bring to the table all the time, but I appreciate the offer, and I thought it was a great conversation. And I do want to say, we also do, so we do our event every May in Grafton, but after the event, we all go to Cahokia Mounds, whoever wants to stay, and we do like a grid working thing there every year for the past 3 years. This will be the fourth year. Um, and that site's been getting a lot of attention from us and a lot of the locals. We go there, frequently and do a lot of work because it's a very, very special place. And I just want to remind everybody that if they are interested in doing that in person, that's May 12th through the 16th, technically, if you want to go to Cahokia. And you can find all that information on our website, which I don't know if you have in the description, but it's journeytotruth.online. Sorry, I had to do a shameless self-promotion there.
That's okay. We'll plug it in the description when we get off tonight. And I'll
Can
plug
I
everybody. I
can I
didn't have
add a
time to
quick
plug it.
can I add a quick plug in there as well?
Sure, let's all plug in. Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to say that I'm offering a 50% off on my course, which is Connecting to the Higher Self. I've extended the discount, the 50% off until the 22nd of February. So you can go to stan.store/all that is to sign up for that course. My website is progressingtothefifth.com. So that's the numeral 5, th.com. And I know we didn't have time today, but I'll be posting my latest transmission from Yeshua and Mary Magdalene, which ties in with a lot of what we've been discussing here today with the Middle East and the election of Donald Trump. And it's going to be, yeah, it's a great update. So I'll be posting that on my website and through my blog. So I'd appreciate it if you guys can tune in. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else want to plug?
I guess I'll plug in. Okay.
Okay.
We're all doing this. Okay, so you can find my work at quantummessages1.com. I have all my services on there about me. And then I also just finished my 3-part course as well, which is Dreams 101, the quantum perspective. And it goes deep into the hypnagogic state and just talking about dreams and teaching about dreams from the quantum view, basically, and the metaphysical aspects of that. And then you started a podcast called Quantum Messages with Ani Sophine as well. And thanks for everybody who's, joined my podcast and subscribed and watched some of the videos I put out. So I just want to say thanks to any of the people that have been watching on this show. So yes.
I just want to say again, I miss you. Just the best thing is just email me, hillnightvision@gmail.com, HILLNITVISION@gmail.com. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and X. And come see us in Charleston. And also, if you're interested in events in Western North Carolina, when things get back to more normal and tourism starts booming again, hit me up for night vision, and hopefully tours will be going on again.
Awesome.
Noka?
I'm good. I'm just gonna say one love. I love y'all,
Okay.
and yeah, I'm good to go here. Thank you though.
Okay. Thank you everyone for watching and joining us tonight. We appreciate you so much, all your love and support. Just be sure to put a big like on this video on the way out and have a beautiful everything. Peace, YouTube.
Good night.